Hello, and thank you for attending SAGE Alerts and Workflow video-based training. Please note that this is video-based training, and content is for training purposes only and intended for new and existing SAGE Alerts and Workflow customers.
Hi, my name is Jay Nichols, and today we will be talking about linked queries, specifically those triggered by inactivity in query design within the alerts and automation solution. There are two reasons to link queries together. First is to look for a more sophisticated or complex set of business conditions that cannot be identified within a single query. The second is to allow you to identify conditions that exist between multiple business applications or multiple databases. Today, we are going to look at the first of these scenarios. Look for a more sophisticated or complex set of business conditions that cannot be identified within a single query. The example that we will use today is clients that have placed no sales orders within a certain number of days. This is referred to an event that is triggered on inactivity, the lack of something happening within an underlying application. To begin, I'll explain the way the solution handles linked queries. In this particular event, it's using two queries. In the first query, it's going to retrieve a list of customers. Then the solution takes that information and passes the information into query number 2. Query number 2's job is to count the number of sales orders that have been placed in the last 60 days for the accounts that were retrieved from query number 1. If there are any accounts that have 0 sales orders, then we have a scenario of a customer or customers who have not placed any sales orders in the last 60 days. When linking queries together, it's very important to identify the linking field that links query number 1 to query number 2. What field of data do these queries have in common? Query number 1 is customer data. Query number 2 is also looking at orders that have been placed by customers. The element of data that these two queries have in common is the customer number. This value exists in both queries. Once the linking field has been identified, let's take a look at these two queries. Query number 1 is named Customers All. It is a simple query retrieving data from one table, the customer table. It's retrieving two fields of data, the customer name, so when we send the salesman an email, they can easily identify who the customer is, and the customer number. That is the linking field. It's important to make note of the customized name for the linking field. In this case, it's CMP_CODE. There are no other parameters configured for this query. If we take a look at the preview button here, it's a listing of all of our customers showing the customer name and the customer number. This query, referred to as the linked from query, has nothing special other than making sure it has the linked field from the customer number as one of the columns for this query. Next, we'll look at query number 2, the linked to query. This is looking for customers with no sales orders in the last 60 days. It is also a simple query pulling from a single table, the sales order header table, and this query will only count the number of orders per customer. So we select a single field, the order number field. The column type is count, and it'll count the number of orders. Let's click on the Filters tab, and let's start by talking about the second filter. That is the customer number field, which is the linking field, specifying that the customer number from this query is equal to, and notice in the compare value field, we are specifying the customized name of the same column, the linked from column from query number 1, which lists all customers, where we noted the customized name of CMP underscore CODE. When you reference the customized name in the compare value in a linked query and you surround the value with a curly brace symbol, which we have done here, that tells the solution that this value will be coming into this query from a preceding query. Query number 1 brings in the customer account list with the customer name and the customer order, and it's going to pass it into this query. And it's going to automatically count the number of customer sales order for the customer number that was passed to it from query number 1. Now the other filter in this query is a date calculation. The solution has a filter that's calculating the number of days between the sales order date and the current date and making sure to only include those orders placed in the last 60 days. This query uses a subfilter because we want to retrieve only those customers where the count of their orders is equal to 0. So query number 1 provides a listing of all customers with customer name and customer number. The solution then goes out and counts the number of orders for those customers, the same customers referenced on the filters tab, and then uses a subfilter in the second query or linked to query to see if that count is equal to 0 over the last 60 days. A couple of important notes about linked queries. First of all, you cannot preview a linked to query. The query preview mode has no knowledge of a preceding query. In preview, it's going to look for a customer number that is equal to CMP underscore CODE and find no matches. It will always return no matches. And second, let's go back to the event using these queries. The actual linking of these two queries happen on the event level where you specify the queries that this event is going to use. The first query returns a listing of all the customers. The second query counts the number of orders for each of the customers returned by query number 1. Now the order of these two queries is very important. If the order was reversed, the event would fail or simply find no matching records. This is why we recommend a naming convention of the query with the initial part of its description being the words linked to. It's a visual clue that this query always comes after a preceding query that first creates a link to a field value, in this case, the customer number that we are linking from. And the solution will be able to run this successive or linked to query, retrieving only those records that meet both queries' criteria. And finally, notice in the event that this event has access to all the data from both queries. The customer number and the customer name come from query number 1. The count or orders that we know is automatically going to be 0 comes from query number 2. This concludes the discussion of linked queries, specifically inactivity and query design for the Alerts and Automation solution.
Thank you for attending SAGE Alerts and Workflow video-based training.